Hello friends, today we are going to start the topic public cloud computing, in which we are going to learn about the public cloud, its advantages, disadvantages and types of public cloud. Public cloud computing. The cloud infrastructure is provisioned for open use by general public. It may be owned, managed and operated by a business, academic or government organization or some combination of them. It exists on the premises of the cloud provider. Public cloud. Public cloud is the availability of IT resources like compute, storage, development platforms and applications, etc., as a service over the internet and which can be provisioned on demand using a self-service portal. Next is public cloud offers rapid elasticity and seemingly infinite scalability with an ability to consume resources on pay-per-use basis. As we have been discussing cloud computing from the start, we are talking about pay-per-use model. What is pay-per-use? Then we talk about what is utility. So here in public cloud computing, as much resources we are using, we are paying for that. This is pay-per-use in cloud computing model. Another thing is its scalability. Scalability means the amount of services we want or the amount of storage we require, we can scale or we can consume that amount of storage space, or we can use or we can consume that amount of services and we can pay accordingly. Another thing is rapid elasticity. Rapid elasticity, that means now I use 2 GB of the space in particular cloud environment, but after a month I need my usage is rapidly increased to, say for example, 50 GB, from 2 to 50. See, the increase is rapid, so cloud services provides me that particular thing. But if I am working on my own premises using my own data center, I may not be able to use it or increase that particular need that rapidly. So cloud what provides me is, it provides me that ability and it provides me that benefit of using it. I can increase as per the usage and decrease as per the usage, and I have to pay only that amount for that particular usage. Now if I own a data center, I use 2 GB but I am having a 50 GB storage space. Why 50 GB? Because in future I may use that much amount of storage. So now I don't use it, but I pay for it, I maintain it, I have that infrastructure with me. So now that cloud reduces that particular expense. Thus it is the benefit here. Next is, typically public clouds are operated and managed at data centers belonging to service providers and shared by multiple customers. This is known as multi-tenancy. That is, multiple tenants of that particular service providers are using the service which service I am using. Such a shared model helps reduce vendor costs, which manifests itself in better cloud economics. Next is, however, there is also less visibility and control in a public cloud than a private cloud, because the underlying infrastructure is owned by the service provider. That means we do not own that particular infrastructure, but we just use these services. And if we want a service that is particularly, or resources pool that is particularly assigned to that company or our company, we can take it from there, but we need not to own it. The degree of visibility and control depends on the specific public cloud delivery model. Business can take advantage of cost benefits and elasticity of public clouds to their advantage. A video production company can use public clouds for video rendering and pay for only the time they used the resources. A business can tap into public clouds when they expect unpredictable demand during a marketing promotion. See, for the previous point, we can take some example for the explanation. Like in the sale days, Amazon, Myntra or Flipkart, whatever we use, they need larger space to store the data because many of the users log into that particular time during that sale days and then they purchase it. So the demand during those 3 to 5 days increases a lot. So they need more space in that time. But after that, they might not need that much space. Thus, they prefer to use cloud services and it provides them with that facility. The other thing is a pharmaceutical company can run their drug design process on public cloud, thereby accelerating the time to market. With proper security procedures, more and more workloads can be moved to the public clouds. In fact, public clouds easily match the private clouds with respect to the availability and business continuity. The diagram for public cloud is C. In private cloud, we have here intranet, but here it is internet. Now, over the internet, users from anywhere, not only the employees of that particular organization, they are the users, they can access this cloud. Okay, now this cloud provides compute services, storage services, network services, which is accessed by the users, and user data is also provided or stored in that particular cloud. Next point is a public cloud platform that uses the standard cloud computing model to make resources such as virtual machines, applications, or storage available to the users remotely. Public cloud services may be free or offered through a variety of subscription or on demand pricing schemes, including a pay per usage model. The main benefits of public cloud services are: first one, it reduces the need for organizations to invest in and maintain their own on-premises IT resources. It enables scalability to meet workload and user demands. There are fewer wasted resources because customer only pay for what they use and not everything. Public cloud history, from where public cloud has emerged. Now here, while the concept of cloud computing has been since 1960s, it did not reach public popularity for enterprises until 1990s. Salesforce, now a top software as a service provider, software as a service, or we can say SaaS provider, entered the market in 1999 by delivering applications through a website. It was soon followed by browser-based applications such as G Suite that could be accessed by numerous users. Public cloud architecture. Public cloud is fully virtualized environment. In addition, providers have a multi-tenant architecture that enable users, or we can say the tenants, to share computing resources. Now, fully virtualized environment here, it means that we have an infrastructure as a service, where in infrastructure as a service you have physical resources. There is a pool of resources, or we can say shared pool of resources for multiple users. Since we have physical resources there for the users, or shared pool of resources for the users, but since there are multiple users for a single resource, so what do they do is they go for virtualization. That means if you have one physical resource, you can go for multiple virtual machines. And because CPU is never used to its complete or maximum utilization, so what do they do is they make the complete utilization of that particular processing or microprocessing units. So what do? They create, they have one physical machine. With that one physical machine, they create multiple virtual machines, and now multiple users are accessing a single physical machines, but it appears as they are using different machines. This is being made possible with the help of virtualized environment. Thus, we can say public cloud computing has fully virtualized environment. Next point is each tenant's data in public cloud, however, remains isolated from the other tenants. It agrees for the security, or it has to mention in the service level agreement that the data of one organization or data of one particular user is being secured in the cloud services or the service that a user is using. Public cloud also relies on high bandwidth network connectivity to rapidly transmit data. Public cloud storage is typically redundant, using multiple data centers and careful replication of the file version. Now here, replication means mirroring of the data. Public cloud computing uses distributed databases, or we can say public cloud computing is distributed databases over internet. In distributed databases, what do they do is, see, I have that particular notion, if my data is in cloud computing, my data is not going to be lost anywhere. If I am using cloud computing services, that means I have been given the assurance that my data is never being lost or it will not get destroyed anywhere. How is it possible? It is possible with the help of distributed databases. What do distributed databases do? They create a mirror image of one particular data of the user. What is a mirror image of the data? That means they copy that particular data exactly to another data center. Now these data centers are not located at a same physical location, but they are geographically apart, so that if any kind of catastrophe appears or happens there, the data is not being destroyed. That means if one of the server or the main server from which a user was working or user was accessing its own data and storing the data, if that particular data center is not working or it's down due to some of the reason, but still the user will be able to access that particular data or complete the information, develop application, whatever function the particular user is performing, he will be able to perform that within the cloud computing with the help of this replication technique. That means mirroring of data technique. This characteristic has given it a reputation for resiliency. Next is public cloud architecture can be further classified or categorized by service models. Common service models include software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. What does software as a service do? In software as a service, in which a third-party provider hosts applications and makes them available to customers over the internet. And then in platform as a service, in which the third-party provider delivers hardware and software tools, usually those needed for application development. Here we go for application development in platform as a service to its user as a service. That means platform as a service. In this service, the particular cloud provider provides services to the user. Now what kind of service that particular provider provides? It provides the hardware and software development tools which is needed for the application development. Next one is the infrastructure as a service model. What does infrastructure as a service model do here in public cloud computing? A third-party provider offers virtualized computing resources. Virtualized computing resources we have discussed earlier, which such as VMs. VMs is virtual machines and storage over the internet through dedicated connections. How is public cloud structured? Another question comes in our mind. So how it is structured? The public cloud allows users to share resources while maintaining the privacy of each user's data. Public cloud architecture is completely virtualized, providing an environment where shared resources are leveraged as needed. A key advantage of public cloud architecture is the ability to access a service or application or any internet connected devices. Because the device itself performs little to no computation, individuals can use highly complex applications almost everywhere. Public cloud is typically designed with built-in redundancies to prevent data loss. A service provider may store replicated files across several data centers to ensure that disaster recovery is smooth and fast. See, this point we have discussed earlier. What is replication? What is mirroring of data? How distributed data centers work. Now, data stored on a public cloud platform is generally regarded as safe from most hazards. Public clouds can be structured differently depending on the type of service being provided. Differences between public and private cloud. The term public cloud allows to differentiate between the standard cloud computing model and private cloud, which is proprietary cloud computing architecture dedicated to a single organization. Private cloud here differs from public cloud. How? As it serves as an extension of a company's existing data center. That means if a company is owning a data center, it has its particular infrastructure. So private cloud is just its extension. That means the service already is with the company. You are just extending it or providing an extension to that particular existing service, and which is accessible only by that particular company. In the third model, what is third model is the hybrid model. Hybrid model is maintained by both internal and external providers. In fact, a hybrid cloud is a combination of public and private cloud services with orchestration between the two. That means if you are using, or if an organization is using a private cloud model. Now, why organizations switch to hybrid cloud? Since a particular organization is using a private cloud and suddenly the requirement extends, it is not able to increase its infrastructure so frequently. So what do it do is, some of the products or some of the organization's usage is being on the private cloud, or private cloud is working for that particular organization, but for some usage or some extension, sudden need, you are going to a public cloud. So that mixture of public and private cloud here for that particular use is known as this hybrid cloud. In some cases, this model is attractive because it enables organization to tap into the benefits of public cloud while maintaining their own private cloud for sensitive, critical, or highly regulated data and applications. The fourth option is multi-cloud architecture, in which an enterprise uses more than one cloud. Most often, it refers to the use of multiple public clouds. Four cloud options we have here. First one is the private cloud. In private cloud, a private cloud is typically defined as everything behind company's walls. It is not shared publicly. Then these kind of systems operate in companies' local data centers, although some companies prefer to use co-located data center facilities. Next one is the public cloud. What does a public cloud do? The public cloud include whole host of services and companies. The most common names are AWS, Microsoft Azure, among others. However, you may also hear software as service such as Microsoft Office 365 included in the definition. Hybrid cloud. Third, what does a hybrid cloud do, or how it is different from private and public cloud here? The third type of cloud. A hybrid cloud deployment most typically describes a situation in which company is operating both a private cloud and a public cloud. In general, a hybrid cloud environment, the private and public services are integrated with one another. Then comes the multi-cloud. What does a multi-cloud do? Multi-cloud strategy is an approach that operates any combination of private, public, and hybrid clouds. An organization may have multiple public and private clouds or multiple hybrid clouds, all either connected together or not. Public cloud pricing, pros and cons is the next point. In general, public cloud is seen as a way for enterprises to scale IT resources on demand without having to maintain as many infrastructure, components, applications, or development resources in the house. They pay per usage pricing structure offered by most public cloud providers is also seen by some enterprises as an attractive and more flexible financial model. For example, organizations account for their public cloud service as an operational or variable cost rather than capital or fixed costs. In some cases, this means organizations do not require lengthy reviews or advanced budget planning for public cloud decisions. Next point is, however, because users typically deploy public cloud based services in a self service model, some companies find it difficult to accurately track cloud service usage and potentially end up paying more for cloud resources than they actually needed. Some organizations also just prefer to directly supervise and manage their own on premises IT resources, including servers. Public cloud security. Because of multi-tenant nature of public cloud, security is an ongoing concern for some enterprises. Public cloud providers offer security services and technologies such as encryption and identity and access management tools. However, it is the enterprise's responsibility to implement such offerings and use best practices to protect their data. A shared responsibility model helps identify which components are the responsibility of the cloud vendor and which should be secured by the user. That means they have to divide about the responsibility for security of the data. That means what is the responsibility of a cloud service provider or cloud vendor for the security of that particular data, and what is to be secured by the user or the data that user should secure by itself. Some organizations choose to keep workloads on premises, especially those with strict regulatory or governance requirements. Modern public cloud service providers take security very seriously. Providers employ specialized security staff to automate security functions and monitor the system for anomalies. Strict policies protect user data from being accessed by other cloud tenants. To gain access to additional levels of security, organizations can leverage a public cloud solution within an hybridized environment. Managing the risks of public cloud. Although public cloud deployment is suitable for most users, there are no sensitive, migrating sensitive, mission critical, or proprietary data into any cloud environment that is not certified and designed for handling such data, introducing high risk. A customer should first select a cloud deployment model, then make sure that sufficient security controls are in place. These actions should be followed by a reasonable risk assessment. First point is data and encryption. As we all know, data needs to be stored or data is being shared when we are using a cloud services, and encryption is the technique to protect that particular data. What does data and encryption can do or how they can help us securing our data for the, or we can use it for risk assessment. If the data is stored unencrypted in the cloud, data privacy is at risk. This is the risk for unauthorized access either by malicious employee on the cloud service provider side or an intruder gaining access to the infrastructure from the outside. Second point is data retention. What does data retention means? When the data is migrated or removed by the cloud provider or customer, there may be data residues that might expose sensitive data to unauthorized parties. Third point is compliance requirement. Various countries have varying regulations for data privacy because some public cloud providers do not offer information about the location of the data. It is crucial to consider legal and regulatory requirements about where data can be stored. Next point is multi-tenancy risks. The shared nature of public cloud environments increase security risks such as unauthorized viewing of data by customers using same hardware platform. A shared environment also presents resource competition problems where one of the customer uses most of the resources due either to need or to being exposed to targeted attacks such as DDoS, that is distributed denial of services. Next point is control and visibility. Customers have restricted control and visibility over the cloud resources because cloud provider is responsible for administering the infrastructure. This introduces additional security concerns that originate from lack of transparency. That means you need to have more transparency to secure the data or for the need of the security. Next thing is customers need to rethink the way they operate as they surrender the control of their IT infrastructure to an external party while utilizing public cloud services. Next point is security responsibility. In a cloud vendor or in a cloud, the vendor, the user share responsibility for securing the environment. The amount of responsibility shouldered by each party can change depending on the cloud model adopted. Public cloud providers and adoption. Public cloud market is led by few key players. First one is AWS, that is Amazon Web Services. Second one is Microsoft, and third one is the Google. These providers deliver their services over the internet or through dedicated connections and use fundamental pay-per-use approach. Since Google most of us are using, we might know how this pay-per-use approach works. We use Gmail account, we use G Drive, Google Docs, everything is on cloud. Most of the services which we are using of this Google are free of cost. You just need to pay for the internet connection. With the use of these internet connection, you uses these services, and then you just have to pay for the internet connection. And with the use of these internet, we can avail these cloud services free of cost. But if we are using more amount of services than provided, we have to pay as per the usage. Next is each provider offers a range of product oriented towards different workloads and enterprise needs. Estimates of public cloud usage vary widely across different countries, but most market research and analyst firms expect continued growth in worldwide adoption and cloud revenues. A public cloud or external cloud is based on the usual mainstream model in which service provider make resources such as storage and application obtainable to general public over the internet or via web applications and web services. Next is maybe public cloud services are free or offered on a pay as you go model. In public cloud hardware, applications, and bandwidth, costs are covered by the service provider, so it is easy and inexpensive setup to the user. Using pay-as-you-go model, it may save resource from wasting. IBM's Blue Cloud, Sun Cloud, Google App Engine, Windows Azure Services Platform, Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, commonly known as EC2, are good examples of public cloud. Thank you for watching this video. Stay tuned to Ekeeda. Subscribe to Ekeeda.